In April 2014, two Dutch girls, Kremers and Lisanne Froon, perished on the Atlantic slopes of the Continental Divide. But 15 years earlier, just across the border in Costa Rica, another young Dutch woman, together with an Australian man, perished under circumstances which turn out to be eerie similar. This is the story of the fatal hike of Kertin Dennisse Goedbloed and Andrew Murray Scott. "33-year-old psychiatrist Kertin departed from the Netherlands to San Jose, Costa Rica on July 7, 1999, on what was supposed to be a 22-day holiday in Costa Rica. As an avid lover of nature, one of her first destinations was the Chirripó National Park, where she planned to climb the 3,821 meters high Cerro Chirripó, the highest peak of Costa Rica. Just like the Mirador in Panama, the Cerro Chirripó is part of the Continental Divide, the mountain ridge which runs the whole length of Central America and which has a huge influence on the climate and terrain on both sides of the divide. Beyond the Continental Divide lies the desolate and sparsely inhabited wilderness of the Atlantic slopes, a terrain which is just as dangerous as it is beautiful. It is during this hike up the mountain that Kertin meets Andrew Murray Scott, a 30-year-old Australian surfer who had arrived in Costa Rica on July 2nd via Nicaragua. Bound together by a shared love for nature and adventure, Kertin and Andrew become friends, and after reaching the top of the Cerro Chirripó, they decide to explore the Atlantic slopes of the Talamanca area together. The last time Kertin is in contact with her family in Holland is on July 15th. However, at that time, she mentions neither Andrew nor her further plans for the holiday. Descending down the Atlantic slopes, the two friends are next seen in the village of San Jose Cabacar, where they rent a room with a local family while exploring the surroundings. On July 23rd, Kertin and Andrew leave San Jose Cabacar after buying a large amount of rice and provisions at a local shop. Perhaps planning to return to this village on their way back, Kertin leaves some of her belongings with their host before they leave the village, heading north. The route they take will lead them over a distance of 34 kilometers to the city of Brie on the Atlantic coast. But why they take this particular trail and how well they had researched this route has never become completely clear. On August 5th, Kertin misses her flight back to the Netherlands, and, unable to contact her, her family raises the alarm and files a missing person report, which is then redirected to Costa Rica, where a police team manages to trace her route to the village of San Jose Cabacar. At that time, the route from San Jose Cabacar to Brie is a muddy trail, just wide enough for two horses to pass each other. The trail is easy to follow and leads through several villages, but the search teams following the trail have to be accompanied by armed guards, as the trail is a well-known route for drugs and arms smuggling, and regarded as far from safe. "I do not understand why they went to Brie," Jose Campos, the search expert and current deputy head of the Red Cross Mountain Unit, will later declare. "I can't explain what they wanted to do there. There are beautiful rivers, but there aren't any specific things to go see." At that moment, a team of 12 men is on the search, accompanied by dogs and armed guards. Although several people living along the trail claim to have seen the two foreigners, witness statements are very confusing, with some claiming to have seen the two friends go north, while others claim they went south. On August 9th, a searcher discovers a trail of broken branches, which leads off the trail on the right through dense vegetation into a narrow valley. Later, some would speculate that Kertin and Andrew left the trail because they were being followed, but it is just as likely they were searching for a safe place off the trail to camp out for the night. Following the valley, the search team then discovers the backpack of Kertin on a small patch of grassland near the top of a 9-meter-high cliff. Inside the backpack, they find a tent, camping gear, and provisions, as well as her passport and a considerable amount of money. However, there is no sign of Kertin herself. Unable to scale the steep cliff beyond the little field, the team then has to return. But the next day, the search is continued with twice as many people and equipment, as well as helicopters. Search teams use ropes to descend the cliff, as they suspect that the two friends may have tried to climb or perhaps even jump down the waterfall. However, despite a huge search with teams and dogs, no trace is found of either Kertin or Andrew anywhere near the backpack or below the waterfall. After searching for 3 days, the wind changes just as the team is following a small stream which flows from the waterfall down into the valley of the River Coen. As they follow the left shore of the river, the dogs catch a scent, and shortly afterward, the body of Kertin is found. The young woman is sitting on a stone about 1.5 meters from the edge of the water. She has taken off one of her shoes and provisionally immobilized her ankle with the aluminum frame of a backpack. Her body is found 3 kilometers from the waterfall where her backpack was found, and on hindsight, it is suspected she walked at least part of this way through the water of the stream, which caused the search dogs to lose her trail. Kertin's body is found on August 15th, 23 days after she and Andrew were last seen. A later autopsy on the body shows no signs of violence and established the cause of death as starvation combined with the effect of an infection on her badly twisted ankle. It is suspected she twisted her ankle while falling or sliding down the waterfall, making it impossible for her to climb back up. A date or time of her death cannot be determined. Despite further searches, there are no traces of Andrew, and as only Kertin's backpack was found near the waterfall, the search teams suspect that the two were no longer together when the accident at the waterfall happened, and the Australian man may have left the country to Panama. Months later, though, locals find the trousers of Andrew along the shores of the River Coen, and on January 11th, 2000, the remains of Andrew are found along the shore of the river, about 800 meters downstream of where Kertin was found. Due to the state of the remains, a cause or date of death cannot be determined. The backpack and gear of Andrew has never been located, although it is likely the aluminum frame used to immobilize Kertin's ankle came from his backpack. Neither of the friends left any final messages behind, and we will never know whether they accidentally fell down the waterfall or were chased off the cliff. But the fact that no traces of violence were found on the bodies, and all the contents of Kertin's backpack were recovered untouched, seems to indicate this was indeed a very, very sad accident. 15 years later, when Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon perished on the Atlantic slopes of Panama, barely 100 kilometers from where Kertin died, the parents of Kertin contacted the parents of Kris and Lisanne to offer support. And although we still do not know for certain what happened to Kris and Lisanne, there are many similarities between both cases, and the story of Kertin and Andrew can help us to better understand what happened to Kris and Lisanne.